Finally, Benjamin Netanyahu has his war, a war he's dreamt of for more than 2 decades, and Donald Trump has become the president who granted him his heart's desire. Netanyahu can now wield American power against his enemies in pursuit of a long-standing ideological vision, the remaking of the Middle East. For years, he and the circle around him have spoken openly about reshaping the region. In their imagination, the Middle East is not a map of sovereign states. Its borders are negotiable, its governments are disposable. It's a chessboard to be moved as Israel wishes. The language of Greater Israel, once confined to the fringes of Israeli politics, has steadily drifted into the mainstream. Today it echoes not only in Israel but in Washington, inside an American administration closely aligned with Christian evangelical Zionism, where the remaking of the Middle East is sometimes framed not merely as strategy but as prophecy. But we are told this war is about something else. We're told it's about nuclear weapons, about American national security. We've heard this story before. We heard it about Saddam Hussein's weapons of mass destruction. We heard it from George W. Bush and Tony Blair, and we watched as Iraq was invaded, shattered and fractured, only to discover that the central justification for war rested on lies, on deception. The consequences were not theoretical. They were measured in hundreds of thousands of lives, broken, burned, buried, often without even bothering to count the dead, measured in regional chaos and in a permanent stain on Western credibility. Now the script has been dusted off and repurposed because Iran, at the very moment this war began, was negotiating in Oman, in Geneva. Its foreign minister was signaling flexibility, willingness to reduce uranium enrichment, willingness to accept international oversight. There was space for de-escalation. Instead, diplomacy became theater. While diplomats spoke of compromise, fleets quietly moved through the Gulf and the Indian Ocean. Mobilization unfolded beneath the cover of dialogue. The choreography was familiar. Talk peace, prepare war. Then came the strike. Iran's supreme leader assassinated, political leaders targeted, military commanders eliminated, sovereign territory bombed, cities shaken. And yet, in the dominant American narrative, Iran is somehow cast as the aggressor. But Washington would be making a profound mistake if it imagines that war with Iran will resemble the invasion of Iraq in 2003. When American troops stormed Baghdad, Saddam Hussein's regime was already collapsing. His disastrous invasion of Kuwait had ended in humiliating defeat. A decade of suffocating sanctions had hollowed out the Iraqi state. Internal divisions were tearing the country apart. The Iraqi army was shattered. The Iraqi state was broken. It took only days for Saddam's statue to be pulled down in Baghdad while American forces raised their flag over the city. Iran is not Iraq, nor Afghanistan, nor Gaza. For half a century, Israel has fought almost exclusively against militant groups rather than conventional armies. Its last full-scale war against an organized army came in 1973 when Egyptian forces stunned Israel by crossing the Bar-Lev line in Sinai. Israel stabilized the battlefield only after a massive American airlift rushed weapons and supplies. In Lebanon, Israel confronted Hezbollah and after years of attrition was forced to withdraw from the south in 2000. In Gaza, it has dropped tens of thousands of tons of bombs on one of the most densely populated places on earth, fighting militants in tunnels beneath a tiny besieged strip of land, and even there, against fighters in flip-flops, starving in underground tunnels, Israel has struggled to fully crush the adversary or recover all its hostages. Iran is something entirely different. Iran is a nation of more than 90 million people, a vast country with complex mountainous terrain that has frustrated invading armies for centuries. It has a large conventional military, a hardened core of Islamic Revolutionary Guard forces, hundreds of thousands of besieged mobilization fighters ready to be activated. But the decisive factor is deeper than numbers. Iran possesses a powerful sense of national identity fused with Shia Islam and hardened by centuries of historical memory. And in moments of external threat, that fusion tends to tighten rather than fracture. The American bombardment and the killing of Iran's leader has not broken Iranian society. It has rallied it because Iranians remember 1953 when American and British intelligence orchestrated the coup against Mohammad Mossadegh, their democratically elected prime minister, after he attempted to nationalize Iran's oil. They remember the dictatorship that followed, the repression under the Shah, installed and sustained with Western backing, a regime closely aligned with Washington and Tel Aviv. And it was that repression that ultimately produced the Islamic Revolution of 1979. Of course, I doubt Donald Trump knows any of that. Trump, with his characteristic ignorance, arrogance, and bravado, may imagine that Iran can be transformed with a quick surgical strike, any top-down regime change. History rarely cooperates with such fantasies, and if the Gulf destabilizes, the consequences will not remain regional. They will ripple through energy markets, currency markets, and the global financial system that underpins American power. This may prove to be one of the most dangerous strategic adventures the US has ever undertaken. It may not produce a new Middle East shaped in Israel's image. It may instead follow a far older pattern, the story of a superpower overreaching. Empires at the height of their confidence begin to believe their own mythology. They mistake military superiority for strategic wisdom. They assume force can reorder history itself. But empires rarely fall because they're weak. They fall because they overestimate their strength. From hubris, Britain learned that lesson in 1956. Convinced it could still dictate events beyond its shores, London launched the Suez Adventure, a show of force meant to restore imperial prestige. Instead, it exposed the limits of British power. What was meant to demonstrate strength revealed decline. History rarely repeats itself exactly, but it often repeats its logic, and Iran may yet prove to be America's Suez.